So more than 150,000 Russian soldiers are now missing in Ukraine. Their families haven't heard from them in months or years. Russia says they're not in formation, and Ukraine says they're not being held as POWs. To be blunt, that's 150,000 that are most likely dead. Now, casualty information in this war is classified on both sides, so we're likely to see wide-ranging estimates in all directions. Today, however, we're looking at some actual data points. Russians who have submitted applications to the Ukrainian I Want to Find project for help finding their missing family members. Now, the project noted that since their launch in January 2024 through November 2025, the I Want to Find project has received 152,248 applications regarding missing military personnel of the Russian army. They say on average, they receive around 2,000 new inquiries every week, and statistics show that only 2% of cases of the missing person tends to be alive and in Ukrainian captivity. Now, as a bit of a comparison here, the United States at the end of World War II documented around 80,000 U.S. service members missing in action around the world, like North Africa, Italy, Germany, France, all across the Atlantic, all across the Pacific. How about all those islands in the Pacific where pilots went down and nobody had any idea where they were? 80,000 missing by the United States, all of World War II, essentially around the world. 150,000 missing in just eastern Ukraine is a shocking number. Now, I know the question here will be, what about Ukraine? Do we have any comparisons there? Kind of, again, wanting to stress that all of this information is classified by the respective government, and I've not seen a project put together by Russia to this same end of trying to document how many Ukrainian soldiers are actually missing. The estimates that I've been able to see are between 35,000 and 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers currently missing, with government officials saying around 60% of those initially listed as missing end up being held in Russian captivity and later either returned in a prisoner swap or at least notified that they are being held by Russia. Now, I saw the Red Cross put together a statistic that 180,000 total missing person cases have been logged throughout this war. Hard to tell how much of that overlaps with this Ukrainian project. And another note here that we have to keep in mind is we're assuming that the Russian families in this case went to the Ukrainian I Want to Find project after they exhausted all options in Russia. That's not necessarily the case. It's entirely possible that they didn't trust or didn't believe or maybe didn't know how to ask these questions of their own government authorities and instead went straight to Ukraine. So something to keep in mind as we run through some of these statistics. They say most often the missing are sought by their wives. 31% of applications come in from wives, 25% come in from sisters, and the fewest number overall came from fathers. Only 1% of applications were Russian fathers looking for their missing sons. To answer the question of whether or not they support Russia's invasion of Ukraine, 74% of applicants answered no. To be fair, if it is a Russian asking Ukraine for help finding their missing soldier, it probably would make sense for them to say no to the question of do they support the war. Now, to nobody's surprise, the most searches for these missing persons are in some of the heaviest areas or the areas that have seen the heaviest fighting so far in the war. There are currently 23,768 applications outstanding from the Pokrovsk direction and 11,322 outstanding from Bakhmut. And they note that among the 20 units with the highest number of missing persons, 8 of those were formed in the occupied territories of Ukraine. Now, the I Want to Live, I Want to Find project has a pretty interesting report they just released as well on the makeup or demographics of Russian prisoners of war, those that have been captured by Ukraine, saying that a full 40% have criminal records. But first, a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Equip Foods. So I've used protein powder for a long time, but one of the challenges is finding a product that actually tastes good, that isn't loaded full of ingredients you can't pronounce, a bunch of fillers, and has a ton of sugar, which is why I partnered with the sponsor of today's video, Equip Foods. And they're back there on the shelf because I thought about holding them up here, but it felt unnatural, a little too close to the camera. And yeah, one of them's open because, we just used it yesterday in some waffle mix here at home, which is a little trick, by the way. If you got kids and you're trying to get more protein into their diet, waffles. That's the way to go. Now, I've been using their Prime Protein, which is made from grass-fed beef and gives you 20 grams of protein per scoop. My favorite flavor here is chocolate mint, but they also have a bunch of others. Chocolate, peanut butter, salted caramel, strawberry, iced coffee, vanilla, even an unflavored option with just one ingredient. And the ingredient list here is super clean. Just a handful of carefully sourced, real ingredients, no fillers, additives, or weird extras. And another important aspect here with Equip is their commitment to transparency. Every one of their products is third-party tested for heavy metals, pesticides, microplastic molds, and more. I mean, it's pretty important to know exactly what I'm putting in my body, and with Equip, that's clear as day. So here's your chance to try it. Head to equipfoods.com/PS20 for 20% off your order or 35% off when you subscribe. That link will be in the description and pinned comment. And of course, thank you so much to Equip Foods for sponsoring today's video. So turning to this second report from the I Want to Live project, they said they gathered data on more than 10,000 Russian service members who were captured during the entire period of the full-scale invasion. And I'll put up on the screen here a translated version that Dimko over from Zynga's Paw and a current soldier in the Ukrainian Armed Forces, I saw him post the translated version, a little easier to run through here. But according to the I Want to Live project, they say the number of surrendered Russian soldiers is increasing year by year. In 2025, more Russians were captured than in 2022 and 23 combined. They say on average, every week, from 60 to 90 service members of the Russian Armed Forces surrender. This year, 2025, or last year, the number of foreign mercenaries captured has significantly increased, saying that 2 to 3 Russian soldiers every week end up being from a third country. And notably, they say, foreign citizens, Russia doesn't ask for them in return during these prisoner swaps. So they're kind of forgotten. After they sign up to fight with Russia, or in some cases are tricked to fight with Russia, if they're captured by Ukraine, Russia doesn't want them back. In terms of the demographics here, they say the highest rank among the prisoners of war is a colonel. The youngest is, of course, 18, the oldest being 65. They say approximately 76% are contract soldiers, including those recruited in prisons and private military companies. 19% are conscripts, and another 5% are draftees. How are conscripts getting captured in the war? I thought conscripts couldn't go to the war zone or couldn't be near the front. What? That's crazy. Now, in looking at the criminal records here, they say 40% have one. The top 5 listed here are theft, drugs, robbery, and assault, grievous bodily harm or violence, I don't know why that's listed separately than assault, and then murder is the 5th, not necessarily the lowest, but the 5th. They said that 24% of all prisoners reported that they did not voluntarily participate in the war. They were either deceived or forced to go to war. And that kind of lines up with the numbers here being 19% conscripts and 5% draftees. I mean, if you go with all of those not wanting to be involved in the war, there's your 24%. They say before the war, 38% were unemployed, 18% worked in construction, 11% were drivers, 7% mechanics, welders, and electricians. They say hundreds of people captured had diseases such as HIV/AIDS, hepatitis B and C, tuberculosis, diabetes, as well as mental illnesses such as schizophrenia. They added, I don't know if this is lucky or unlucky, that 4 of the Russian soldiers currently in captivity were captured for a second time. Again, is that like really bad luck on the soldier's part or really good luck that somehow he got that close to the front lines, that close to combat operations and managed to not be killed in both cases? I don't know. The interesting one there. Now, the manpower issue is not unique to Russia, right? In fact, mostly when we hear about manpower challenges, we are looking at Ukraine. And this fits in line with some statements made by Ukraine's new defense minister that was just confirmed earlier today, Mikhailo Fedorov, during his speech ahead of his vote to become the new defense minister, said that 2 million people in Ukraine are currently evading mobilization and that there are 200,000 Ukrainian soldiers who are AWOL, away without leave, or have deserted. He emphasized that he will conduct an audit when he becomes Minister of Defense to address problems with mobilization and improving the quality of training. There's a lot that can be done there. The quality of training is significant in this regard. If the troops think they actually have a fighting chance at the front and are not just going to be sent forward with minimal training and limited hopes of surviving, more people are going to be willing to stay in the force. Adding to that, he said a so-called paper army, Soviet-era approaches, excessive bureaucracy, and failures in supplying the front all prevent frontline troops from operating at maximum effectiveness. The system's internal hell is another enemy, one that must be defeated as quickly as possible. Bureaucracy is a headache everywhere. And a wartime army is no different. It just tends to have a little more of an impact when they're actually out there fighting for their lives. Now, the chief of the Ukrainian military, General Syrskyi, addressed this as well in a speech just a couple days ago, where he said, quote, "The task is to maintain combat capabilities and protect the lives of Ukrainian defenders, the most valuable thing we have. The Pokrovsk direction here, the operational situation remains the most complex. There are about 50 combat clashes every day. The enemy is trying to increase pressure on our defensive positions, deploying additional reserves and seeking opportunities for advancement, including through infiltration actions and constant assaults. Our troops are making maximum efforts to stop the enemy's advance and destroy its personnel and equipment. The northern part of Pokrovsk is under our control. We are stopping the enemy in Minograd. We are conducting active defense." Now, before fully shifting over to a battlefield update here, I wanted to show you a quick video that you all helped provide. The equipment you all helped provide in a recent fundraiser. I was in Ukraine a couple weeks ago and was able to link up with the team at Zynga's Paw and hand off in person $116,000 of drone interceptors and equipment to the 429th Achilles Regiment. Here's that video.
All right, what's going on, everyone? So we're in Lviv. It's 2026. Happy New Year. And we see numbers on a screen during the fundraising, and it's awesome. But to see all of this in person is wild. So 120 interceptor drones. You know how much impact that's going to have on the front? Did you realize that, what you guys have done to be able to put this together? So we've got the batteries, we've got the plastic for the 3D printers, we've got cameras. And what's awesome here, it's so humbling to be able to be here for this handoff, because you got the most important two pieces. Mortimer of the 429th Achilles representing the soldiers, even with that hat. The people that are actually putting this stuff into use day in and day out and genuinely need it. I mean, that's where this is going. It's going out today. It couldn't get any more important than that. And then, of course, Irina representing not just Zynga's Paw, but representing all volunteers and all of you that are making this possible. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much, and thank you.
Thank you, Preston. We always stress with how much people from abroad are helping us, and it means a lot to us as Ukrainians to receive this aid that is international, especially now when we are over 3 years into this full-scale war. And most of the narratives that comes online is that people don't care, people are not interested in what's going on, like everybody forgot about you. When we see the donations and when we receive the notifications, it truly means a lot. All of the comments people write, and really, it doesn't matter how much you donate. It really doesn't matter. All of the donations add up, and in the end, we have over $116,000 put into this equipment. We had small donors who donated $1, $2, $5, but it all adds up, and we are able to buy this equipment thanks to all of you. So thank you very much, and thank you, Preston, for being so confident in this, in what you do, and for being so open to help. This really means a lot to us.
A lot of people care.
From me personally and from all armament force of Ukraine, I also want to express my gratitude. It's really a huge help from you guys, and I thank you. It really means a lot.
All right, now shifting over to a battlefield update, there's 3 areas we're going to key in on today. Starting up here in the north in Kupiansk, we got some new footage of Khartia clearing some of that area and raising the Ukrainian flag in the city center. We're going to shift down to Pokrovsk and then west to the Zaporizhia direction. We've got some new footage coming out of each one of those areas. Starting up north here in Khartia, where the 429th Achilles was involved. In fact, we've got some footage of their operations assisting with the clearance of Kupiansk. But interesting clip here came out from Khartia showing that they've established control over the Kupiansk City Council building. They said the search and strike group of the tactical group is completing the clearance of the city, which successfully unblocked during an operation led by the command of the 2nd Corps Ukrainian National Guard. They quoted the commander, Igor Oblenko, quote, "The Kupiansk operation proves that thanks to planning, the training of commanders and staffs, and the high-quality preparation of units, everything we call the Karta method, it is possible to successfully stop and destroy the enemy. They add that Kupiansk was and will be a Ukrainian city." Now, the Russian response to this, they noted that the flag was dropped by a drone and was subsequently hit by a drone, but there were also infantry walking around on the ground. Military informant said, quote, "The flag on the roof of the building was dropped using a drone for symbolism. However, in addition to this, the enemy filmed footage of his infantry both on the ground near the building and inside of it. Judging by the video, the Ukrainian assault troops feel quite at ease and act openly, which indicates the enemy's control over this territory." And we've got from multiple Russian sources in recent days that the fighting continues throughout Kupiansk. And by all accounts, Russian and Ukrainian, the Russian positions there are dwindling. Ukrainian advances are continuing to cut off any remaining Russian forces in that city. Now, shifting down here a little bit south to the Pokrovsk direction, General Syrskyi, the areas he was talking about here in Pokrovsk, saying the heavy fighting and that Ukraine still maintains a presence on the northern outskirts of the city, likely in this area here marked in the gray zone, adding that defensive operations are continuing in Minograd. And we've talked about this in recent videos. This bottleneck is going to become a major issue. Would not be surprised if Ukraine plans to hold this, that we see significant operations moved in here in terms of maybe GUR units, GUR units, or others trying to open this up a little bit more to allow for reinforcements and resupply. Deep State Map provided some footage here and an update saying, quote, the enemy continues to be detected in various parts of the city, talking about Pokrovsk, constantly sending its infantry to accumulate and entrench in the settlement. The Russians are also taking advantage of the weather conditions to conduct assault operations. They are creeping under the cover of snow, fog, and cold, taking into account the fact that our drones have difficulty flying. They're also hiding behind camouflage suits to minimize their visibility. However, this does not prevent the defense forces from identifying and eliminating these scumbags, but due to the large number of Russians, they have the advantage. And the last little update here, a bit to the west, let's see, out in the Zaporizhia direction. I'm going to try to get the naming right. I mess it up a lot. Huliopoli. Here. I think I got it that time. Huliopoli here, we've seen Russian advance to the north and the south. We got an update video here from the 225th Separate Motor Rifle Brigade right here in the Vavrivka area. So many of these names, so hard to pronounce. Nonetheless, quick clip here from the 225th where they say under the cover of dense fog, the enemy attempted to storm the village, landing about 20 assault troops. The defenders held off the enemy in small arms combat for almost 40 minutes, then blocked them in buildings. When the weather permitted, heavy drones were used against the enemy, completely destroying the assault group. There were no casualties on our side, and they mark again the village was Vavrivka in the Zaporizhia direction. This area near Huliopoli, try again, I feel like I say it different every single time, has been a focus of Russian offensive operations in recent weeks and months. We've seen them, of course, lose some traction up near Kupiansk. The pressure is continuing in the Pokrovsk direction, but shifting west. When you look more west towards the Dnipro, towards Kherson, this is definitely an area that Russia continues to pressure and hope that they can try to make some sort of breakthrough in the Zaporizhia direction. Now, that's the general update at the front. Stepping back a little bigger picture, there does continue to be a pretty sustained Russian drone and missile campaign being carried out against Ukrainian energy infrastructure. That is happening day in and day out, and we'll dive into that a little bit more in the next video. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.